Meta ads are changing. So a couple videos ago, I got a comment from somebody who basically asked, what is your opinion on the current state of meta ads? I've felt like things are changing and I just want your 2 cents. So I gave an answer in the comment, which you can look at, but this video is my attempt to give my thoughts on what the state of meta ads is and where I think it's going and what's changing and what it means. So if you are interested in any of that, if you're running meta ads for your own music, then stick around and let's get into it. So if you're running meta ads, you probably are aware that things are changing. Honestly, if you just live in the world, you are probably aware that things are changing. Everything is different all the time, especially online, and meta ads are definitely no exception. So the main overarching theme of this change is a push toward automation. Meta wants more and more for users just to be able to have an idea, click a button, and then be able to advertise for that idea. All taken care of by the Meta Ads platform with basically no effort needed by advertisers. As somebody who runs an advertising agency, I find that a little bit scary, but that is the way things are going. So there are 2 ways that Meta is trying to push this automation. The first and most obvious is through targeting. So it used to be that we as advertisers pretty much controlled all of the settings for targeting, and now it is true that we control almost none of them. And so let's jump over to the computer screen and I'll show you what I mean. So when we talk about Meta automating targeting, what we're really talking about mostly is at the ad set level. So here's what we used to see for a long time at the ad set level is this audience control section and advantage plus audience. But then we always had a choice to switch to original audience options. It was this inconspicuous blue link, so clearly they don't really want you to click it, but you could click it. And if you did click it, you would get to this screen, basically let you work as if Meta Ads was 3 years in the past. And you could set your age and your locations and things here. So they've recently switched the interface around a little bit. Here is the updated version at the ad set level where targeting happens. And so they've made that little note about Advantage Plus smaller, and instead of saying switch to original audience options, they're now saying further limit the reach of your ads. So note that if you don't change anything, they will go beyond what you say, and often that has pretty bad impacts, as I've talked about in other videos. And so you can't any longer choose to do the original audience, but you can further limit, and then you can switch the setup. They really want you to stay, and it will take you to this screen, which is, like you can see, a little bit different from what this screen looked like, but you still get to say locations, you still get to set your age range, and yeah, so you still can limit your audience a little bit more. Honestly, I've found this to have the same impact so far in switching to original audience settings, but clearly there is just a movement toward more and more automation at the targeting level, at the ad set level, and this is just one more example of going down that path. Then you also have to click more buttons to add interests. I know for a fact that the band Switchfoot, which I used to use for some Christian music campaigns, no longer exists as an interest target. That's true of a bunch of individual acts and a bunch of interests. So they are just kind of slowly removing interest targeting. And in general, I'm fine with that because interest targeting really hasn't mattered functionally for a few years now. And so they're taking away the illusion of control, but it's really not fundamentally making a difference. It's just part of the whole push toward more automation, definitely at the targeting level. So yes, targeting is getting more and more automated. Now the second component toward automation is more and more automation of the creative. So the video and the text and the imagery that we are using in our ads. And Meta is clearly pushing more and more toward this too. You can see this in things like the AI text suggestions that you'll get, how they do the automatic image enhancements, and they will even auto-generate images for you sometimes. So they are pushing more and more toward the automation of creative, but I think this is a lot harder to get right than targeting. And the reason is it starts with the intention of the user and how they want to represent their brand. And that's just something that involves more nuance. I watched a video from Ben Heath, who is kind of just a general Facebook ads guru. And his take was that because good advertising is pattern interruption, it's something that's fundamentally hard to outsource in an automated way because you can't really automate pattern interruption. And maybe you can in the future when there's super intelligent AI, but I do think that that is a harder play than just coming up with a few text examples based on a prompt. So for now, I think a lot of the success of the creative still hinges on your ability as an advertiser to figure out how you want to break pattern, how you want to communicate what you want to say. And that'll be harder to automate, but that's still long-term probably the direction that Meta wants to push things. So that's like the overarching theme, but the more specific question, and that's more relevant to you probably if you're watching this video, is what does this mean for music advertising, especially right now? And the short answer, in my opinion, is that it means almost nothing right now.
Yes! Yes!
The ad campaigns that we are running still work. We can still run engagement campaigns where we're sending people to a landing page, having them click to Spotify, and we still have the option to restrict our age ranges, at least to some degree. From what I've seen, the guardrails still work, the campaigns still work. Everything is still a good option for marketing music on streaming platforms. But at any point, that could change. So Meta could totally decide they will not let you restrict an audience at all anymore. They will shift totally toward automated targeting. And in that case, it would be really hard for us to run effective engagement campaigns in the same way that we've been running them for the past 5 years, because a click is a click. And because Spotify isn't integrated with Meta, we can't tell if that click turned into a stream. And so Meta's going to get us a ton of clicks, but they might not get us a ton of streams if they don't let us set any guardrails at all. Hasn't happened yet, but it could happen later this year or next year or in 3 years. So definitely a possibility. But in the short term, I think the takeaway is that creative is more important than ever. So I would just spend time getting your ads right, making sure that they have an element of catchiness to them, some sort of hook, and that they accurately reflect your music so that when people click and listen to the song, they get what they expected. And then obviously making good music helps a lot too. So if you want help with that, I have a free resource called 5 ad templates that have helped to drive millions of streams, or something like that is what the title is. And it's basically 5 different kind of hooks that I've found that have worked really well for driving streams in these sorts of campaigns. So I'll put that somewhere at the link below this video. As always, just wishing you good luck as you navigate the very confusing and constantly changing music marketing landscape. I feel overwhelmed by it, and this is what I do for work. So I imagine that it's pretty easy to feel overwhelmed by it wherever you are. But yeah, wishing you good luck, wishing you encouragement, and as always, you got this.